keep on snatching it.
So it's said that 1.5 million people in the United States practice yoga. For those of you who don't, when you hear the word yoga, you may think of this. Or this. Or even this. I have no idea what that is. But how do you adapt something like that for someone who lives with a disability? Well, it's not going to look anything like that, thank goodness. Adaptive yoga is a term that most are not familiar with. You may have heard of adaptive sports, Special Olympics, Paralympics. But to adapt yoga, you have to go to the very core principles of yoga, which include cultivating a mind-body connection so deep that growth doesn't just happen on a physical level. Now, I've always been taught that yoga is for everybody, that anyone who wants to try can. And that includes the 637,000 people in South Carolina that live with a disability. And those are only the ones that we can actually count. When I decided to bring a public adaptive yoga class to the Midlands, I really didn't know what was going to happen. But I'm here today to tell you a little bit about what I've learned thus far. So my story actually begins over a year ago, when an email came in inquiring about private yoga lessons, and the person stated they were paraplegic. We met, and I figured out real fast that I did not have the skill set needed to do this work. I went home and I contacted a friend, and she told me about Matthew Sanford. Matthew, at the age of 13, was paralyzed from the chest down. And since then, he's not only founded a nonprofit, but he's a nationally recognized yoga teacher, public speaker, critically acclaimed author, as well as a leading voice in the integrative health movement. A spark lit when I first met Matthew, and I knew then I wanted to bring his fire back to South Carolina. But where was going to hold this fire? I needed a space that was not only accessible, but had adequate storage space, that could offer an after-work prime time period that would be convenient for everybody, as well as, and this is the kicker, allow me to offer the class on a donation basis, meaning nobody gets paid and nobody makes a profit, including myself. I looked at recreation centers and church halls and yoga studios, and after one casual conversation with the owner at Yoga Masala, I knew that my fire, it could grow there. So I had to start recruiting people, volunteers actually, who actually assist with the process of the class itself. And during volunteer training, a local physical therapist and I, we go through kind of the basics of disability etiquette. We, of course, go through the moves we want them to assist with. But more importantly, we hit the main elements of an adaptive yoga class, which include human connection. Let me back up. Maybe. Thank you. Human connection, first and foremost, safety, and then the actual yoga. In order to get the funds for the equipment that we needed, like the extra padding and the blankets and the blocks, I signed up on a crowd-sharing donation site. Now, I am not a graphic artist in any way, shape, or form, so I made the page as pretty as I possibly could. I sent it out on email and Facebook and Twitter, and I crossed my fingers and I prayed really hard. And in 1 week, I had not only met, but exceeded my donation goal. Now, this is really the point where I stopped saying I, because I realized after the donation pot overflowed that this little class, this project, it wasn't about me. It was about what a community could do when it bands together. So we created an adaptive yoga class. And our class serves people living with spinal cord injuries, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, MS, and more. We have family members and caregivers and service animals that come and take and participate in class, or they just take a nap. And with students donating what it is they can afford week after week, and some weeks that means nothing, we have donated over $4,000 to charity. Now, I want to introduce you to a couple people from class. This is William. William lives with cerebral palsy, and he is the heartbeat of our class. Now, he can be a little intimidating. He's a big guy, and it's sometimes hard to understand what he's saying. But trust me when I say he is smarter and more intuitive than all of us put together. He knows that this process that we call growth or connection requires patience, coordination, and a little bit of laughter. This is Mr. Harper. Mr. Harper is a stroke survivor, and he lives with left side paralysis. The day he came to class dressed like this, like a suit and tie to yoga, he said he had something to share with us. So he told us a little bit more about his story. His stroke was 7 years ago, and since then he's been religiously going to physical therapy, but he always thought something was missing. In finding this class, he found that missing piece. He was finally able to connect mind and body together. And then he did something we never expected or thought he would ever do. He proceeded to stand up and take a step. Now, I don't want you to think what we do is glorified physical therapy, because trust me, none of us have that extensive training or equipment to have someone living with paralysis stand up. We quickly got him to sit back down. What we do is yoga. We create an environment in which people can move and breathe and feel and connect. Growth isn't measured in how much a joint can move. Growth is measured in the subtlety of sensation, in an expanded breath, and in a good night's sleep. Actually, when you ask the students why they keep coming back, they'll talk to you about the camaraderie of the class, that the group feels like family, that the stretching and the breathing takes away some of the pain and discomfort that comes from muscles they have little to no control over. And that the whole idea of connecting mind and body seems just a little bit more plausible each and every week. I had one student tell me, I continue to come because the pain that tried to define me has decreased significantly. And I don't think she was just talking about physical pain. Actually, I wish I could share all the feedback that I get with you. But really, to be honest, I'm still processing it for myself. I don't know what it all means, or even if I'm supposed to understand what it means. All I know is that every week I get to see a little bit of the human spirit in action. I get a little bit of a glimpse of what it means to live in a body. And I'm reminded every week that yoga is for everybody, that the possibility of connecting mind and body exists as long as one possesses both, and has nothing to do with what type of body you're in. The opportunities to create vision and share the human spirit are endless. I just happen to do it with yoga. The real question is, how do you do it? Thank you.